Thank you, Chair Steen. I do have my presentation. I will try to describe carefully what my points are. I write that report up to the very minute because we're paying attention to a lot of things on the landscape. But we will, as usual, post these materials from my presentation on the website. They'll be available, and we also started providing annotated versions of this as well, so people can click the link, listen to the presentation, and they can also, if they just want to read the content from each slide, they can. So basically, I'm on slide 2 of my presentation that the objectives, I want to explain our focus and how we look at the communication landscape. I'm going to, of course, align those points to our guiding value pillars. Those are very important. We were able to finalize those with oversight from the board about over a year ago, and they are very, very helpful as we try to make sure that we're doing things in balance. We're going to cover, as we've been communicating with the public, I want to highlight to you about the different types of questions that we get. It kind of depends on what the group is that we're talking to, but we do get a wide range of questions, and we do have a lot of just general interest. And so in this presentation, I'm going to talk to you about some of the questions that we get, the topics, and so you know where those conversations are generally going. I will, though, again, say every group in particular has its own particular interests and priorities, but we try to make sure that we talk to everyone about whatever they're interested in. I'm going to talk a little bit about customer satisfaction. We do measure that on a regular basis and have for years, and I want to talk about where we are in terms of our polling information. And I want to ultimately end with this focus on communication continues, and that we continue to want to refresh the way that we communicate with everyone. We do understand and look forward to the discussion on the RAC today. That's another avenue we'll be able to add if approved today. But no matter what, we want to always enhance that, always want to refresh our conversations and recommit to more communication with the public and our community. So I'm going to bypass 3 because it's just the topical points of what the objectives are, and I'm going to go to slide 4. And on the communication landscape, I just want to indicate that we do a lot of things. We do poll our customers to ask them what's interesting. We did do some polling with customers earlier in 2020 that gave us some insights. We also survey customers whenever we can, whether they be at special events or online. We try to find ways to get information that way. We do focus groups and test groups. We did quite a bit of it back in the 2019 timeframe. I'm going to talk about some insights that we got there. We do focus on partner engagement. I'm going to talk about our website where it shows and documents many of the conversations that we're having with different groups, and we're trying to create that and expand that website as we have continued conversations. We continue with People First community fairs. Those, we have moved those to virtual online sessions. It's a little bit harder for folks to do. We are going to continue to try to use other technologies, regular phone calls, things like that, but we do work with the council members to do the Community First Fairs. We have public input sessions. They're typically around major strategies and activities, and I want to thank the board for being available for our November 2020 session that we just had. And again, we're always monitoring surveys. Some of them are interactive, some of them are of online, different activities. But our perspective is we always want to gauge where the wide range of thoughts are about what the company can do better to give us the ability to understand those sentiments and guide us on how we're doing and where we can improve. Going on to regular slide number 5. So in 2019, the important point of asking customers questions is to see what they think. So in 2019, we got some customer insights, and these came from focus groups. The focus groups were a group of residential customers, small business, and then larger business customers, and some of that's online, some of that's in person. But two of the major insights that I just wanted to highlight again, and the board has seen the major takeaways from the insights that we got in 2019, was you've got to connect with us, stay in touch with us, even a quick commercial would help. And another would be maybe they should have more media. I came in the door uptight about our rate hike, and that was we're always thinking about a rate hike because we never know when we exactly need one. So this is what the customer was experiencing, and they went on to say, but now that we've discussed everything, and you see the innovations, and it makes it a little more palatable. And I think our insights that we've taken from that is that we've just got to keep talking to folks to tell them about the things that we're trying to do and how we're trying to use innovation and technology to reach the goals that the community has. Going on to PDF slide number 6. And again, as I said, we are trying on our website to document, having more conversations with folks. How can we do that? And we also think that people are interested and they want to know what is the San Antonio Manufacturing Association thinks. What does the environmental group think? And then we're open to all types of new organizations that might want additional information on what we're doing. The Military Officers Association of America, the Alamo chapter, they wanted us to speak to them. We also have been talking to an Executive Solar Advisory Committee, a group of folks that have helped with Rooftop and want to help us improve those programs. So again, there's a website. People will be able to see that when they see the online version. But if you go out to our website and you look at our stakeholder engagement page, you will see that, and we will continue to share information publicly so people can know what's happening. Then I'm going to go on to the next slide, my slide number 6. And again, we always bring in the pillars. The pillars are important. It is important for us to think about everything that's going on. And it sounds redundant, but really appropriately, we have to think about maintaining reliability. We always think about customer affordability, the security of the systems that we manage, the safety around the assets and the services that we provide. Environmental responsibility continues, and we've been on this journey for decades now. And then the focus on resiliency. And again, that one's probably the one that's a little bit more nebulous, but it's how fast the system can recover. If there is some type of disruption on the grid, how fast can it recover? Is it just a blink, or are there outages that occur, and how fast can we respond to that? And we do all of that on the foundation of financial responsibility. And we are, again, currently one of the highest rated utilities in the nation. Those go from the big behemoths, the IOUs, to the smaller. And that is, again, not been because of CPS Energy, but because of our citizens and how well we have worked together to solve solutions and made the services better, provided more of the benefits of any market across the globe, and really tried to keep forging ahead to evolve and improve. PDF number 8. And I'm highlighting these again, just to highlight again, these are things that we keep getting asked about from different groups. And so we have continued to talk about the fact that we may need a rate increase. And every year we may need a rate increase. Our track record is we haven't had a rate increase in 10 years, and the last one was 6 years ago. And we always do all we can to make sure that we work hard at controlling our costs and keeping the bills as low as possible. And that's a great track record. There aren't many utilities that can state that and be as progressive as CPS Energy has been over the years. And we've also, because the way that the community decided to own its own generation many, many years ago. And so we have a very diverse portfolio of power, and that diverse portfolio of power protects the community from having to buy energy on the market when those prices spike. And from time to time they do. Right now we're seeing a really muted market. We don't see a ton of spikes. It happens periodically, but still the generating plants that we have protect the community from the exposure to price spikes. Again, on slide 9, we keep getting asked, again, how are we doing in terms of our bills compared to other major markets? And we're about to refresh this information. I would say over the years, we have gone back and forth with Austin. We've been lower than Austin for a while. I think the margin between us and Austin is getting parallel. But I think what's key is the municipal markets typically do well in comparison to the other major markets. I am talking about non-promotional standard rates on an annual basis. And again, when you see them, we are well positioned to have some of the lowest bills in Texas. I want to highlight that. And I want to highlight again that is still happening with us putting even a higher multiple of investments in terms of our energy efficiency and conservation programs, and as well as our renewables. And highlight again, we're number one in solar today. We're number two in wind, and we help contribute to Texas being the strongest wind market in the nation. And I will have to highlight again, we've been in wind for 20 years. This isn't an issue of we don't know what to do. We're doing a lot of things and being very effective. Moving on to slide 10, it hasn't changed. Every time we still go out and talk to folks, they continue to tell us of the 6 pillars that we have. They always want to make sure that we're thinking about reliability, always wanting to make sure that we're thinking about customer affordability. And I'm going to go on quickly to slide 11 because it almost is a repeat. But the challenge, they want to know, well, how are you managing the risk associated with the potential that if you can't stay reliable and there are rolling blackouts across the state, how are you managing that? And, I would say, again, that our Flex Power bundle is bundled to help mitigate exposures when the sun doesn't shine or the wind doesn't blow. And I would say that we will look at everything we can to make sure that we're putting together a strong package that will perform for the community 24/7, 365, as well as perform for the state. And then they want to know, how are we, again, managing the bills? And, again, we always compare to the other major markets in Texas, both municipal and competitive. We compare ourselves to make sure that we know what's going on, that we understand the value, and we understand that we want to keep the bills as under control as possible, and we want to make sure that we don't cause bill shock. And bill shock can happen when we're not controlling costs, but we're fully committed to that. It can also happen when we try to do a lot at the same time. Trying to fix every single thing that we imagine in the future and try to do it all at once is the issue. And you have to really plan for these major changes, and you have to time them and sequence them in a way that keeps bills under control. I always want to highlight the rating agencies are watching. They look at our headlines. They watch what they're doing. We continue to talk to them and provide them information. They continue to have opinions about how municipal markets are going, but they very much are paying attention to San Antonio. And so I highlight it, and I'm going to always highlight it, that the challenge isn't that we don't have issues. Yes, the problem is sometimes you're a victim of your own best record. Because we haven't done a lot of rate increases over the last 10 years, that is a challenge for the community. It's great that we have it under control, but that's why I always say everything you do has a benefit and a challenge, or it has a challenge and an opportunity for improvement. So they do worry, and here we are in the middle of COVID and all trying to work our way out of it. They know it's going to be super difficult for us to work through it. But I would still say that the tipping point of how they view San Antonio has to deal with their concerns, and it's quoted on this last page here. The recent petition was proposed that would revise the governance and management structure of the utility, as well as institute certain carbon reduction and rate policies. Fitch views the proposed governance change as a potential asymmetric additive risk consideration. That has been the tipping point for San Antonio right now. And just generally, the general landscape from a political view is something that they look at as a concern. And this is validated through their report. It's also validated through our conversations with them. So, but it's not all about pressure. We move on to slide 13. We are getting a tremendous amount of positive feedback relative our approach, our flexible path forward in general has been perceived as a strong way to move forward to help with the decarbonization commitments that have been made by the city. And accordingly, we're starting to see a lot of good press globally associated with the Flex Power Bundle. And we've announced the ability for us to early in January also look at what we can do from a global standpoint. What can people tell us about the Flex Step program, our ability to really do a more long-term promotion of what that program can be. So these are driving a lot of positivity outside of our community, a lot of people interested, and really feel San Antonio is a great place to keep making improvements and, again, move to net carbon emissions. Slide 14 highlights, we continue to get a lot of questions. What have you done so far? And so our environmental report is available, and we will start to work on our 2020 environmental report in the spring of next year. Going on to slide 15, questions about, well, how are we doing versus Texas? And so it is great that we have a ton of wind in our market. We are increasing as a state our investments in solar, and it's not as much as people would think today, and that's why the Flex Power Bundle, when it has up to 900 megawatts of solar, is so enticing. And it has this ability for us to increase our investments in renewable energy, particularly solar. Wind is very well penetrated in Texas, but solar is not yet. And so our initiatives and others around the state will help change the direction. One of the challenges is that you'll continue to see is the level of battery storage currently, energy storage of any type, currently in the market is fairly low. And so we're going to have to manage and optimize that. The more investments that happen that are effective, as we also be able to look at the longer duration of energy storage options that are out there, that is going to change. But I want to highlight we exist in the Texas market. So these differences, heavy in wind, moderate in solar, and low in energy capacity, are things that we're going to have to take into consideration in terms of the performance of the grid and how all the operators work well together. Going on to slide 16, this is the comparison of the bills, and when you look at it, this is the data that we took a couple of months ago. Again, we will update soon with the third quarter information. San Antonio's bill stands at about $141 a month on average. This is average. Take your highs of your years and your lows of your years, everything over your 12 months, it comes with an average. The next closest one is Austin at about 145, pretty close. And I would tell you again, that's going to start to narrow. And then what we tried to do over the last couple of months is give you an idea about the estimate of what we're speaking of if, for example, we take on one of the recommendations, which is to triple the size of the energy efficiency and conservation program. And what we said is that incremental investment is about $7 on top of what we currently spend. That would increase our bill above Austin. We go to about $149. Above us would be El Paso at 151, Dallas at 156, and then we inserted another option. What if we also did STEP and we closed the coal units? And basically a lot of that is stranded cost with the replacement of the renewables, and that would take us to $160 a month. So you're almost at about $20 more a month when you get to that category. And then you go after that above us would be Houston at 160, almost 161, and then Corpus Christi at 163. Now again, this doesn't assume every community is doing something different. They're looking at renewables, so this is a moving target, but it's really important, and we use this kind of data to gauge where we are. And bill impact is a really important thing to think about all the time. I'm moving on to slide 17, and I provided this one to give a little bit more context about STEP, because the question is, what could we do? And what I want to highlight is, at the $70 million investment we have a year, that costs every resident, about $3.70 a month. If you go to the third line in the table and we triple it, so just multiply it by 3, that's $210 $210 million, a month. That's a huge increase. And if you said that the difference in spend over the 10 years on average, so $70 million a year over 10 years is $700 million versus $210 million over 10 years is $2.1 billion. And what happens is we move from a monthly investment of $3.69 to $11.07. And what we've always said, again, for customer affordability, we need to be thinking about, is this the best choice? It could be. Energy efficiency dollars usually are very effective. You can get them promptly. There are challenges with them, though, because you typically get the biggest benefits early in your program. The more you put money into energy efficiency and conservation, it just gets harder and harder. It's just a steepness to the curve to do it, but we can do it. It would, when we get to $11.07, that's above what we survey what people think. People have generally told us over the last couple of years, $5 is a comfort point. If they're interested, it's about $5. Once you get over $5, they question whether that's where we should spend the next dollar. Should it be on STEP, or should it be on closing the coal units, or should it be on something else? And so these are the kind of discussions that we continue to want to have with people to make sure that we can understand what they're proposing to us, make sure that they can understand the things that we have to manage. We have an obligation to make sure that people know the impact of these programs, and again, figure out what choices really work for them. I'm going to move on to slide 18 because I want to give this some ideas of what we're talking about here. So this is a slide of potential bill impacts, and these are rough numbers and rough estimates. So I have a table here, and at the low end of the spectrum, we think following the flexible path. And again, we don't have the results back from the Flex Power Bundle. The board members, you've asked us, Dr. Chris Euster is working on this with his team. How can we move faster on the Flex Power Bundle? We're excited about it, and he's going to talk a bit about it later. But in general, we think that the cost of the Flex Power Bundle increase for what we're proposing generally could range between $2 and $5. But again, that's going to change. It depends on what responses we really get. Hopefully they're going to be great, $2 to $5. But if you look again, the incremental cost of STEP is $7, and then the incremental cost of spruce, closing both spruce units, is at least $12. So what do we really want to do? Where do we really want to go, and how do we want to do that? These are not decisions in isolation. They're cumulative decisions. And the bigger thing I want to indicate is, yes, I have talked about a potential rate case because ultimately the same pressures that our customers are having, and we are here to help them, and we're going to work and focus on them, is the same pressures that we are having. So these amounts don't include what it would cost to maintain operations and make sure that we're focused, again, on reliability and other things that have to be invested in, resilience, safety, and security. They also don't take into consideration growth. And as much as people don't want to accommodate growth, growth means jobs. Growth drives the community. It helps people manage out of the challenges that they have. Right now, what we need are more jobs to help the community recover. But what we're saying is, on top of these numbers, we're going to have money to support the operations of the company. So let's say we want to do all of this together. Well, easily we're talking somewhere $30+ a month. And these are not secret. And again, we'd be glad to talk to everybody about it. What choices do we really want to make? The plants mean a lot to us from the standpoint of they deliver reliability. We're not emotionally connected to plants. They help us serve. That's why they're important. But we can change. We do have to worry about our employees who have devoted their lives to operate these plants for the benefit of the companies. So we don't make arbitrary decisions to close, but we are definitely open to transition to other technologies, and that's why the Flex Power Bundle and monitoring technology matters. We've got to figure out how to do this, how to do it affordable, and how not to become the most expensive market in Texas. I'm going to go on to slide 19 and just generally, again, say that we continue to survey customers, and we know it's important that we explain and we give them a full range of information. And it's tough. People are really busy, but we keep working on it. We do continue to see high marks for the things that we're doing. We know we got to do more. We know we have to communicate more. But 82.9 in terms of survey results is a strong level of results, and it continues to stay fairly stable. We know that's not a guarantee. We know we have to keep working on that. Slide 20 is, again, we believe that positivity, constructively working with folks, trying to help make the right decisions together for San Antonio, which has worked well for decades, is the right way to move forward. And we do want to make sure that people know about the positive things we're doing. So once again, thank you, Mayor, for helping us get the Flex Power Bundle launched. I want to thank VIA. We are exploring renewable natural gas. We can't over-leverage in renewable natural gas, but it is helpful. Methane comes off of the waste dumps around town. It comes off naturally, and this is a way to contain that methane and then change the chemistry of it and then help improve the quality of the gas that we have. So that's something that we're working on VIA with. And then we just launched a technology solution with the city of San Antonio and with Itron and AT&T, where we're looking at smart lightings to really help keep working on energy solutions that help the city function better. We are committed to that. And so, again, we do have customers that respond very well to our ability to keep working on technology. I'm moving on to slide 21, getting close to the end here. I do want to highlight that I am participating, and so is our Mayor, Mayor Berg, with a upcoming session. And it's Denton's and Keystone, two organizations that are nationally known. Keystone is nationally known, and then Denton's is a large global firm. And we were able to get a few additional folks to have a discussion about decarbonization, particularly under the Biden era. Every president, as we all know, have their own approaches to the environment and to energy. We believe that there will be significant differences, and we think that from that standpoint, we're hopeful that under his administration, perhaps there's additional clarity and maybe even more importantly, that there could be more funds to come to San Antonio, because San Antonio is a key city that's doing a lot of the great things. So why not us? Why not get more funding to help us make this transition into the future? We also have the head of EPRI, the Electric Power Research Institute, Arshad Mansour. He's the new CEO of that organization, and Ernie Muniz, who was the prior Secretary of Energy. He is going to give a keynote and talk about that transition, what it might look like. And then Clint Vince, who heads up the energy practice globally, he's also going to help facilitate that discussion. We invite everyone to join in and kind of listen and see what thoughts and ideas you have, and I think there'll also be the opportunity for people to post questions. So, and I will follow up and see that we can try to get a handle on those questions and see how we can also share those in San Antonio, and then what our views are of them about San Antonio. So on slide 22, I'm showing the same slide again, that we want to continue our engagement. Most of our relationships with people across the city are very, very strong. But in the case of the environmental stakeholders, we understand that our relationship is not in a great place. We continue to want to speak to them, to talk to them. We think that's still important. We think, again, San Antonio is known for its collaboration. We have continually made offers, and we will continue to make offers to sit down. I wrote an op-ed a couple of years ago that said these conversations were going to be tough. And they're tough because there are a lot of choices that can be made. And it doesn't mean that you can always say, I just want to do this and it's easy. It's a conversation and a journey. So we will do our best to outreach again, because we know how important it is for the future of San Antonio, that we're working together and that we're looking for positive ways to move forward. And with that, I will end my presentation.